Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SAS Viya Release Highlight Show. I'm Tiago de Souza, and today we'll be talking about what's new in SAS Viya. We also have David Vikes into the SAS Viyaverse segment. David will show us some of his favorite new features, including the new search facet for steps, new steps in SAS Studio, and custom step designer. And finally, we've got some exciting news from a brand new benchmarking study SAS just commissioned with the Futurum Group. The study compared SAS Viya against a competitive commercial data and AI platform and non-commercial approach where various popular open source technologies were used. Results of the study showed that SAS Viya was found to improve productivity at each stage of the data and AI lifecycle. Testing showed that an end-to-end data and AI lifecycle can be achieved with more than 4 times greater productivity in SAS Viya than in competitive solutions. The productivity gains found in SAS Viya not only ease the burden placed on data and AI teams, but they can lead to significant cost savings. For access to the executive summary or the full report, please visit sas.com/facts. Today, we're going to focus on all the data engineers out there using SAS Viya. Cameron and I will give you the scoop on these findings, and then David will come back to show us some tips and tricks in SAS Studio. David, over to you.
Hello, and welcome back. We are going to switch to SAS Information Catalog, where we have a new search facet that has been added. Well, to be exact, 4 new search facets have been added. We're gonna type in step, and let's ignore my previous and recent searches and look at the 4 down below. We now get step column, step count, step name, and step type that enable us to search through SAS Studio flows to understand and quickly find flows that use a certain step or a step that uses a certain column, for example. So my favorite one is to search through the step type. And if we go ahead and look at the auto-completion, you can see, of course, you can search through the classics like query, SAS program, load table, all the ones that SAS just ships with out of the box. In addition, you will also see the .step files, and those represent the custom steps that you have imported or created for your own environment. So to find steps that use a specific custom step, now you know how to do it. So you might, if you change a step, you can easily inform people about the updates that actually use that step. Super helpful feature. Another one that I really enjoy is the count feature. So let's say we want to look at flows that have exactly 3 steps in them. And here we can see the list. This is an amazing feature to more quickly gain insights into your environment. And of course, this feature can also be leveraged through the SAS REST APIs. So go nuts. We will switch to SAS Studio, where we have 7 new steps made available to us. We have 2 in the machine learning category, Bayesian network and factorization machines. In the optimization and network analysis category, we get connected components, linear assignments, and shortest paths. For text analytics, we have text parsing and text topic mining, text topic discovery. And finally, we have explore data. On this step, I want to put a bit of a spotlight because I really enjoy its functionality and have been using it since it came out. So let me pull up the information about the step. And of course, we first have to provide continuous variables, classification variables, and we also have a group analysis section that we can leverage if we want to. Then we can go into the options tab, where we have a lot of additional capabilities that you can add so you get more visualizations to help you understand your data. And this is just such an awesome tool to quickly gain insights and understand how your variables might be related and correlated on a very easy glance. So I've already connected the cars data set. I've selected some visualizations I'm interested in. So let's take a look at the results. And here we can see all the different plots that have been generated for us just by filling out this custom step, helping us to quickly understand how the different variables might be related to gain an understanding of our data set without having to write any code. But if we want the code, you can always go to the code tab and pull the code from here to implement it as part of your larger SAS programs, or continue using the step as a swim lane, for example, and then have your additional SAS Python programs after it. Here we are inside of a project inside of Model Studio that uses text analytics. I have already pre-built the pipeline for us so we can get right into what's new. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this on the concept node, but this is also available in other interactive nodes like topics and categories. So if we go to open the node, we are greeted with the familiar interface that you might know and love, where you can easily edit concepts, try out the sandbox, things like this. Now you have the added benefit at the top right-hand corner to switch from this kind of standard layout that we call the tile view to a side-by-side view, where you get a lot more real estate and, to me, a much more intuitive way of writing my concepts. So I can write them on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I see all my document, I can look at the matches, and it feels much nicer to me to build out my concepts in this way. I think this is a great way of enabling us to build better and faster rule-based text analytics models. So I really appreciate this feature. With that, I want to switch over to SAS Studio, where we have a lot of new stuff. And I want to focus on two key things. But first, let me go through all the new features that have been introduced. So we get 3 new steps in the statistics category, one new step in manage models called the assess model, a super popular step. I'm sure we get the ability in prepared data to transform columns. We get a random forest node in the machine learning category, and we get a community detection step. Now the big one for this release is in the integrate section for SAS Studio Engineer is the lookup step. This is one of the most popular steps I can imagine for all the data engineers out there, with the ability to connect a source table and multiple lookup tables, and then be able to identify key columns, find corresponding values, add them, and of course also have the ability to create error and exception tables. This provides so much functionality, and this is going to really unlock a lot of data engineering capabilities and makes them much easier to use through this visual interface. In this month's release, we get an awesome new feature for all us custom designers. So let me first open up the quick start, where we just get an empty custom step, and we have a new common control interface, the option table. The option table enables you to define a table where people can even enter values or even add rows to that table. So let us first walk through what this thing is actually capable of, and then take a look at what I built with it. And if you are interested, leave a comment or reach out to me and let me know if you would want to see a deeper dive in what else could be possible with this new input control mechanism. For this, I'm going to switch to full screen, as we're going to be working on the right-hand side a lot. Of course, we are starting things off with the 2 classic, the ID, which will translate into the macro variable name in our step, the label, how the object will be named for your step user, and then we start off with the first big decision that you are enabled to do here. We get 3 choices about how this table looks like. We start off with the default of the step author defines columns and rows. This enables you as the step designer to create a static framework into which your users can put their own spin into or select things from a dropdown. The next one is the step author only defines the columns, meaning the user can add rows on their own. So you can actually have them add a lot of more of additional data in the column structure that you define. And the last one is even giving them the ability to add columns. So super flexible data entry mechanism, basically. Now, we are going to leave it for now at the step author defines columns and rows, as I think that's where most people will start off with. Here, we can set the number of default rows that will be displayed to the user. Now, because we have set it so that we put everything in here statically, the minimum rows and maximum rows are grayed out. No more changes here needed, as your user will only have the ones we specify. Let's put this up to 4, and you will see why in a second here. And then we can go ahead, next option, show column labels. This would then remove the header. I would always encourage you to have column labels to give your user a better idea of what they are seeing here. And next, we come to the table columns. Now, you can see we already have one column in here. That's the one we see here already. And we can also add additional ones. Before we do that, let me first take a look at that ability around the columns. So we can first define its control type. The numeric field and the text field are ones that are very familiar to us from other inputs that we already have within the step. Just kind of reduce what people can enter. We have the validation field, which enables us to introduce a regular expression or regex to validate the input of the user before accepting it into our code and running it. Super awesome feature. And then finally, we can also provide a static dropdown. Also very familiar to you from the drop-down list input control. So you can also assign a value and a label to it, or just have it be the same. All those things are, of course, possible. You can also always set if it's required. You can set minimum, maximum values. You can set defaults and placeholder text, all the things we know and love from other controls, basically. I hope you have enjoyed these updates, and I would love to hear what you think of these new capabilities. See you next time.
Thank you, David. He showed off a lot of new features. What was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Joining me now is Cameron Massey to break down the new study from the Futurum group about SAS Viya and what it means for data engineers. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, Tiago.
Happy to see you back in the studio. It's always a trek for me to get over here. It took me 30 minutes to walk here.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound very efficient. It only took me 5 minutes to drive here.
Driving. Yeah, that's a lot of time saved. It's definitely easier to drive than to walk around the hills on this campus. Which reminds me of the results of this Futurum study, that data engineers see a whopping 16 times productivity improvement when using SAS Viya over commercial and non-commercial platforms.
I know one factor that helps data engineers here: automation. SAS Viya has built-in automation for data preparation and uses no-code processes for managing and preparing data. It even uses automatic data scanning to identify sensitive data instead of manual processes.
And the study found that managing and preparing data that would usually take 5 hours would only take 18 minutes in SAS Viya.
Automation can really help make use of data faster. By reducing the time managing and preparing data, organizations can instead focus on fostering innovation and driving decision-making.
I wonder, let's see if David can show us some of the automation possibilities in SAS Viya from a data engineer's perspective in this month's release talk.
Thanks, Cameron. Today I brought with me 3 tips to increase data engineers' productivity inside of SAS Studio. Let's get right to it. So here we are inside of SAS Studio, where I've opened up a prepared SAS Studio flow. And each tip will be represented by one swim lane. Let's start with the first tip and the first swim lane. Now,
you might encounter the topic that a data scientist or a business analyst has built a model and integrated it into a decision flow. And now they come back to you and say, hey, make this part of the ETL process. This now needs to run daily, monthly, whatever the cadence is. Well, this can be a challenging task, or it can become super simple. Just use the execute decision step from the integrate category and pull it into your flow. Then you can connect your input and output table like usual. And the beauty of this is the step lets you map between your input data and the required variables by the decision or the model, which makes it super easy for you to integrate this into your flow. Now, let's just run this. And one important note with this is, as the person that built the decision updates that decision, your step or your flow automatically updates along with it. Super quick and easy integration for you. The next tip is around how you can combine no-code step usage with, of course, using programming and combining them in a seamless way together. For this, we are moving into our second swim lane, no-code and yes-code. We connect the table from our previous swim lane to this. And we first move into a query where we can visually build an SQL query to understand, filter, join, or build out new columns. Now, this data we want to now process through Python to generate some visualizations and also create some new columns. In previous tools, you might have to know the exact table names or have to move the data in complex ways. Here, you just connect through these little arrows, the two steps together. And then here inside of our Python program, I can just make use of a variable called input to pull in the data that has been connected to this program and output to return some data back to the flow. This, of course, also works with SAS programs here. And then we can use the output data of this step in our next step, the summary tables one. Let's just run this and see how elegant this communication is and also how much it can increase your productivity by being able to reuse programs over and over again. So our whole swim lane ran. So let's look at the result. Here we have our histogram produced in Python, and then we have the table summary from the visual step. And this is absolutely seamless, and I can't even tell what created what, which is beautiful from an engineering standpoint. Now, let's move from our second swim lane to the third tip and swim lane, extending beyond. This is where custom steps come into play. They enable you to encapsulate complex or very specific business logic into your own steps that you can drag and drop into your flows and visually connect to your data. That makes it easy and very productive to build out custom code and make it shareable and reusable for others to use. And also, when you update them, they can be updated across the board. Now, a bonus productivity tip I have here for you is, for example, the step I'm using here is available on the SAS Software GitHub account where you can download it and many like it for free. Or, of course, you can build your own using the custom step designer. And then they work just like any other step within SAS Studio, where you can connect your input or output data sources and visually walk through the options that the step designer has built for you. Now, they can really improve your productivity by building out complex processes and making them reusable across the board. With these 3 tips, you should be a lot more productive now inside of SAS Viya as a data engineer. Back to you, Cameron.
Thank you, David. Again, as we mentioned in our last show, SAS Viya Workbench is now available. SAS Viya Workbench is a self-service, on-demand compute environment for analytical development, including building AI and machine learning models for better data analysis. You can build AI models from scratch and streamline work by pulling in existing Python or SAS projects with minimal to no code modification needed. To learn more about SAS Viya Workbench, go to sas.com/workbench. Well, we've reached the end of our show.
If you're watching this on YouTube, why not give us a like and subscribe to the SAS Users YouTube channel and click that bell so you'll get notified for new videos and when we go live for our next show in December. Until then, comment on what topics you'd like to see in future shows.
I've been your host, Tiago de Souza.
I'm Cameron Massey.
I'm David Vike.
Haven't we had enough of this guy?
Say thanks for watching, David.
Thanks for watching, David.
We'll see you next time.